Okay, so a few weeks ago, I put out a video talking about some brutally honest financial advice that I think everybody needs to hear. And it seems that video really resonated with a lot of people because a part 2 was highly requested, so that's exactly what we're doing today. We're gonna go over even more brutally honest financial advice, things that you need to know so that you can start making better decisions. Starting with one that is probably going to rattle a few cages, and that is the fact that buying a home is not always a good investment. Did you hear that? That was the sound of real estate agents and mortgage brokers everywhere screaming in horror and clutching their pearls. Oh well.
Listen, it's time I let you in on a little secret, Marge. The right house is the house that's for sale. The right person is anyone.
Before I get too far into this, I just want to dispel two accusations which I'm sure are likely to pop up. Number one being that I'm just a disgruntled renter trying to convince myself that I'm not as disgruntled as I am, which is untrue. I own this home. I have a mortgage, but I own this home. And number two is that I am a landlord trying to convince everybody to continue renting, which is also patently false. I don't have any investment properties. I'm not a landlord, and I truly don't have a horse in this race. I just want to help you to make the best decision for your circumstances. Okay, with that out of the way. So my entire life, all I ever really wanted was to own my own home. And when I was 26, I finally got lucky enough to have the opportunity to do so. And I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity, and I'm very happy with the decision that I made to own a home. But the truth of the matter is that it's not a great financial move. The majority of the benefits that I get from being a homeowner are not monetary. And that's because, contrary to popular belief, owning a house is not always a great investment, and renting is not always a waste of money. Really, it depends on the cost of houses in your area, the cost of rent in your area, your personal financial circumstances, your long-term goals, and many other factors, and I just don't think it's talked about. Especially here in North America, home ownership is just seen as kind of the pinnacle achievement of adulthood and the thing that everybody should want and everybody should work towards. And I can't even count myself out of that statistic, obviously, but let's break down how this actually works. So, not far from me, there is a house for sale. And in all fairness, it is a much larger, much fancier house than mine. It has 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a 2-car garage, and a fully finished walkout basement with an additional bedroom and bathroom. And it is listed for $1.4 million. Gotta love Toronto. If you wanted to buy this home with a fairly standard 20% down payment, that means you'd need $280,000, plus closing costs. And here in Canada, that would include land transfer tax, an inspector, an appraisal, a lawyer, and a bunch of other miscellaneous fees. So all around, you're easily looking at needing $300,000 in cash just to get your foot through the door. But even putting aside that astronomical amount of money for just a moment, you would then also need a mortgage for $1,120,000, which at a fairly reasonable 4.99% interest rate over 30 years comes out to $5,910 per month. Then of course there are property taxes for $620 a month, insurance for $100 a month, utilities easily $350 a month, and maintenance and repairs, which very conservatively we could say would be $500 a month, but in truth it's probably a lot more. Consider things like having the roof replaced or the windows replaced or getting new appliances, and you break down those costs over the lifespan of you living in that house. Truthfully, $500 is probably very, very low. Okay, so now we're up to $7,480 a month. And if we go back and we take those closing costs and that down payment and we amortize those fees over the span of your 30-year mortgage, that brings us up to a whopping $8,313 a month for you to own this house. So obviously that is a ton of money. However, houses just like that one, same size, same neighborhood, are currently renting between $4,500 and $5,000 a month, all in. In fact, that exact house that I saw listed for sale is also listed for rent for $4,700 a month. So why is there such a huge difference between the cost to own and the cost to rent? Well, because rental prices are dictated exclusively by local supply and demand. Housing prices work more or less in the same way, except they're also influenced by speculation, which can artificially inflate them by a lot. So that means that in this example, you'd be spending an extra $3,600 every single month if you chose to buy this home rather than rent it. And yes, sure, if you bought it and you stayed there for 30 years and you paid off the mortgage and never refinanced or did anything like that, then in 30 years' time, you would have a fully paid off house that's worth a few $1,000,000 and you'd have no mortgage payment. But of course, you would still have all the rest of the expenses because property taxes, utilities, insurance, all that stuff never goes away. But instead, if you chose to rent this house and you took that extra money, you took even just $3,000 and you invested it every month for the next 30 years, you'd have over $4.4 million. And best of all is that you wouldn't even have to liquidate your home to access it. So in this case, buying this house would make zero financial sense. So why would someone buy this house then? Generally, it's going to be for psychological reasons, like the freedom to do whatever you want to the house, or the security in knowing that you can never be forced out or evicted. And that's all fair, but obviously it comes at a very steep financial cost. But the point is that there isn't just a one-size-fits-all answer here. Buying a house can be a good investment sometimes, but it isn't always. And likewise, renting is not always a waste of money. You just have to do the math. But housing is probably not the only thing you're overpaying for. And in fact, it can be one of the hardest places to save money because that's generally going to involve moving with all the chaos and the stress that comes along with that. Personally, I'm someone who enjoys spending a little bit more to have a house that I really love. And the way that I'm able to afford to do that is by cutting my spending as much as possible on pretty much everything else, especially the things that don't actually make a difference to me at all. That's why I decided to partner with Mint Mobile on this video. Reducing your phone bill is one of the easiest ways to save money without complicating your life at all. Mint Mobile makes it easy to get the same unlimited talk and text and high-speed data that you're already used to for just $15 a month. Because they run on the nation's largest 5G network, you get the same coverage and the same speed you're already getting, just for a lot less. And you can keep your phone number and use the phone you already have. Your wireless company wants you to think that it's a huge pain to switch away from them, but they're totally lying. It's actually really easy to switch. Most phones nowadays use digital eSIM cards, which means that you can sign up and activate immediately right from home within just a few minutes. But if your phone doesn't use a digital eSIM, no big deal, Mint will just ship you a new SIM card for free. So why would you choose to pay more than you have to every single month? To save yourself some money without any sacrifice at all, head over to mintmobile.com/accordingtonicole or click the link in the description box down below to get premium wireless service for just $15 a month when you sign up for a 3-month plan. That's mintmobile.com/accordingtonicole. Stop overpaying for your phone, and thanks to Mint for partnering with me on this video. You are picking your career wrong. I did a deep dive on this topic in last week's video, so if you didn't see it yet, maybe go check it out. But basically, I have come to believe that the majority of us go about picking our careers in the wrong way. From the time that we're kids, we're told to think about our interests and to consider what we're passionate about, and then we're encouraged to pursue a career based on those things. But I don't think that's a great idea. The problem with this strategy is that it functions on the basis that your career is meant to be your main source of personal fulfillment, which I don't think it has to be or really even should be. But worse is that it completely overlooks the main purpose of your job, which is to pay for your life. Pursuing a career based primarily on your personal interests rather than on the income potential means that you're operating with the mindset that as long as you find your job to be enjoyable, you'll be perfectly happy being broke, which, needless to say, is a very naive perspective. Not only does passion not pay the bills, but the stress you will feel from living paycheck to paycheck and struggling to make ends meet is more than likely going to burn you out to such an extent that you lose passion for your job anyways. So instead, I think the better way to go about it is to pick a job based on the lifestyle that you want to live. Ask yourself what kind of life you want. Where do you want to live? Do you want to rent or own? Do you want to have a car, or are you okay to take public transit? Do you want kids or pets? How many? Do you want to travel? To where and how often? What are your hobbies? What do they cost? And based on all of that, how much money would you need to make every year to comfortably afford that lifestyle? Then you can research careers that fall within that salary range, and from those, pick whatever interests you most. Obviously, nobody wants to work a job that they absolutely hate, but a job that you literally just see as a job, but that gives you the means to live a phenomenal life when you're at home, sounds like a pretty great career to me, not gonna lie. Just remember that real life starts the moment you clock out. Okay, this one should be fairly obvious, but I think that some people just really need to hear it, and that's why you're probably watching this video, and that is that just because you want it doesn't mean you need it, and doesn't mean you can afford it. Sorry, not sorry.
Oh God, it's so unnecessary!
Oh, you have excellent taste.
Here's the thing. It is human nature to try to justify things, both to ourselves and to others, when we know we're making a decision that is probably not a good decision. I think that at some point, everyone, myself definitely included, has been in a situation where you've landed on something that you really, really want, but you know deep down that you don't need. So what do? Mental gymnastics, baby. Those new shoes you want, you actually need them so you can start going for runs. And right now you might be spending like $5 a week on ice cream, but if you got a Ninja Creamy, it would pay for itself in like 40 weeks. So it's actually a good investment. Can't even say that with a straight face. Your phone might work perfectly fine, but you need to upgrade to the newest version so that you can take higher resolution photos of your feet to sell on the internet. Technically, it's a business expense. #girlboss. But yeah, no. If there is something that you genuinely want just because you want it, and you're not in debt and you can afford it, knock yourself out. Have fun. Go for it. But know that just because you want something doesn't mean you need it, doesn't mean you can afford it, and doesn't really mean you should buy it. And lying to yourself and doing mental gymnastics, unfortunately, doesn't change that. Okay, this next one is probably gonna rattle some cages, but just stick with me here for a second. Coffee is not the problem until it is. Bear with me. The idea that spending $5 a day on coffee is why you're broke is a tired cliche by now. It's become basically the punchline to a lot of jokes, because it's a ridiculous idea to claim that saving just $5 a day is going to make the difference between you being rich or poor, or is going to be the thing that lets you buy a house or achieve whatever other financial milestone. It's dumb, but it's also kind of true. And just hang on for a second before you get all riled up and start leaving rude comments. Or actually, go ahead and leave rude comments if you want. It's good for engagement. I don't care. This is all because of something that I call bleed spending, which I'm pretty sure is not an actual term. And I, of all people, am not qualified to start coining financial terminology, but here we are. Bleed spending is when you make a small purchase and rightfully justify it to yourself as inconsequential, because it is. But then that flippant mindset starts to bleed into other things, and before you know it, you're making a ton of small purchases without acknowledging the fact that they're actually adding up to a very significant amount of money. So like, your $5 coffee is not a huge deal. But then while you're grabbing your coffee, you also get a muffin. So now we're up to $8. And then you decide to get a $12 salad for lunch because it's only $12, but now we're up to $20. And then another $5 here, $3 over there, $10 over there. Before you know it, your fairly reasonable $5 daily splurge has turned into you spending $20 or $30 or $50 a day on things that you can't even account for. And at that point, it really does start to affect your finances. $5 a day is $1,825 a year. Fine. But $20 a day is $7,300 a year. That is real money, especially if you don't have it. So while your coffee itself is not the problem, the mindset of, oh well, it's only $5, it's not a big deal, that is the problem, especially when it's something that you're doing regularly. It causes you to spend hundreds of dollars a month without even realizing it, without even knowing where the money is going. And then all of a sudden your bills are due and your account is empty and you have no idea what happened to all your money.
What do you mean? I have $100.
Not anymore, you don't. Poof.
So if you want to treat yourself to things, by all means, do it. But be mindful about it, be intentional about it, budget for it, and make sure you actually know where your money's going. And finally, this one drives me absolutely crazy because the people who need to know the most about this, the people who should know the most about this, oddly, often don't know anything about it. But that is, no, you can't just write it off. There is this common misconception that self-employed people, business owners, freelancers, that they can just write off whatever they want. That if they can find a way to justify basically any purchase as a business expense, it essentially becomes free.
That's a write-off?
Yeah.
Do you even know what a write-off is?
Yeah. It's when you buy something for your business and the government pays you back for it.
Oh, and who pays for it?
Nobody. You write it off.
Except that it's not free. Like, not even close. A few months ago, I made a video about the process of me deciding to buy an expensive MacBook to help speed up my video editing process. And just as I had expected, I got a whole bunch of comments along the lines of,
"What took you so long? Why were you overthinking it? It's a business expense. Just write it off. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo."
as though somehow that allows me to get a $4,000 laptop for free. I wish. This fundamental misunderstanding of tax write-offs causes small business owners to spend a ton of money on things that they probably don't need and possibly can't even afford, under the misguided illusion that it's going to cost them next to nothing after they write it off on their taxes. But that's wrong. So let's break down how this actually works. To make numbers easy, let's say you're a freelancer and you earned $100,000 this year, and you're taxed at 25%, so you owe $25,000 in income taxes. But if you had $20,000 of business expenses to write off, you do not just get that $20,000 back. Instead, it's subtracted from your gross income. So instead of being taxed on $100,000, you'll only be taxed on $80,000. And 25% of $80,000 is $20,000. So instead of paying $25,000, you pay $20,000 and you save a grand total of $5,000. The other 75% of the money that you spent is gone. That's money that you spent out of your pocket and you do not get it back. Then you have to consider that there are other factors that further complicate this. Like if the item that you bought is half for work use and half for personal use, you can only write off half of its value. Like in the case of my MacBook, it cost me $4,000, but I use it half for work and half for home because it's my only computer, which means that I can only write off $2,000, not the full $4,000. And here in Canada, large purchases like laptops can't even just be written off. They have to be depreciated over a set period of time that the government decides. But yeah, that is all to say that tax write-offs do not make things free and do not even make them anywhere close to free. The more you know. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys in this one. As always, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. Are these things that you were already knowledgeable about? Is this a new perspective on things that you hadn't considered? Leave me a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you want a part 3. I don't know, maybe not. Whatever. If you enjoyed this video at all, please go ahead and hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Apparently, the vast majority of people who watch my videos are not actually subscribed to the channel, so you should subscribe because it's free and it takes like 1 second, and then you get notified about all these nuggets of wisdom that I drop. Subscribe, like, follow me on Instagram at according_to_Nicole. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. Take care. See you next week. Bye!